Skoda Rapid, the 3-cylinder 12-valve engine 1.2 MPI, which Rapid got from Fabia, at first caused enthusiastic exclamations from the owners. Well, of course, because the consumption of 4.5 liters on the highway at current prices for the 95th pleasantly warms the pocket. But 75 horsepower at 1,200 kilograms of car weight with a driver of a fragile physique at the wheel is like arriving at the dacha at the same time as a neighbor who does not lose his penny from his hands, even if you were racing. If, in addition to the driver, 3 more passengers sit in the cabin, filling the trunk with zucchini, then the declared acceleration to 114 seconds becomes nothing more than a colorful fairy tale. The inability to properly carry out the entrusted, for the 1.2 MPI motor, also adversely affected the resource. Piston without major repairs keeps about 250 TKM. But that's not all. The eternity of the timing chain also turned out to be short-lived. After 100,000 runs, there are frequent cases of chain slippage with all the ensuing consequences. The very same 4-cylinder 8-valve engines 1.6 MPI for 90 and 105 horses, which have already set the teeth on edge for many, are also installed on the Skoda Rapid, but are now produced in Kaluga. Structurally, both units are absolutely identical, and the number of horses is determined only by the firmware in the ECU. Banal chip tuning magically turns CFNB into CFNA. The first thing that Rapid users noticed was that the manufacturer was a little cunning about the car's appetites, and, it turns out, it is impossible to meet the declared 4.9 L 100 km even on a manual transmission on the highway. The maximum that can be achieved is 7 L 100 km outside the city and 9.5 L 100 km in the city. However, fuel consumption is not the worst thing. Most of all, Skoda Rapid owners are afraid of the CFNA feature, which manifests itself even during the warranty period. The same knock of pistons that once bothered the owners of the VW Polo sedan. For those who noticed strange sounds during warm-up in time, the pistons were changed under warranty, the rest considered this normal and sometimes drove 300 TKM without adding oil and losing traction. But not everyone went smoothly. There have been cases when seizures on the cylinders led to the loss of compression and, accordingly, to the capital at a miserable 100 TKM by modern standards. You treat one, you maim another. In 2015, a new CWV unit appeared for Skoda Rapid, or rather, an almost completely redesigned CFN with an inlet phase regulator and a cylinder head deployed by 180. The ill-fated pistons, of course, were also modified, and the knock disappeared, but one problem went away, another appeared, namely a chronic oil burner, which has already become famous today, especially for the Skoda Octavia model. With a run of about 100,000 kilometers, or even earlier, many owners note a solid oil consumption. Appeals to the officials found that the very design of the engine contains an appetite of about 400 grams per 1,000 kilometers. The kicked out kilobins, in an attempt to deal with the situation, took up the analysis of the unit and found that it was not so much the design that was to blame for the oil burner, but the curly assembly. Well, it's necessary to place the piston ring locks on top of each other. Servicemen share their impressions. However, this opened my eyes to why someone eats the engine, someone doesn't, someone has little, someone has half a liter per thousand. Needless to say, Rapid drivers need to be very attentive to the oil level in the 1.6 CWV engine. Moreover, every 50 TKM it is recommended to carry out decoking of the combustion chamber, since the burnt lubricant is deposited in a solid layer on the pistons, and not only, increasing the engine's ability to detonate, which, as we know, most skillfully kills the engine. A common problem with 1.6 engines on Rapid is the knocking of the left engine mount when driving through bumps. Dealers are well aware of this and implicitly changed the pillow under warranty. The 122 horsepower turbocharged 1.4 TSI engine with the EA211 index is one of the best Volkswagen engines in terms of economy and efficiency, and it's hard to disagree with this. But in the review of the used Rapid, we are interested in reliability. In general, a more complex turbocharged unit turned out to be no more harmful than its opponents in the Skoda Rapid engine compartment. In the first versions of the motor, due to a defective tensioner, the timing chain was prematurely stretched and jumps occurred with the destruction of pistons and rings, bending of valves, and breakdown of phase change couplings. Not uncommon were malfunctions associated with the operation of the pump and direct injection system. In general, savings and efficiencies sometimes resulted in some owners in thousands of dollars in repairs along the way, not weakly tarnishing the reputation of the VAG concern. Like all direct injection petrol turbos, the 1.4 TSI requires a special approach to maintenance. It is better to have the period between the replacement of consumables from that specified by the manufacturer, and then the turbine will be able to live a solid 150 TKM. In the upgraded 1.4 TSI, which is now installed on the Rapid, there is already an aluminum cylinder block lined with cast iron. The chain was replaced by a belt, which calmly, without incident, nurses 60 to 90,000. Pump leaks on early runs still occur. As befits gasoline turbo units, 1.4 TSI oil eats, but relatively little, about 400 grams from replacement to replacement. Looking at the excellent traction abilities and moderate appetites, the choice in favor of 1.4 becomes obvious. The clutch package wears out quite quickly. After 100,000 kilometers, the smoothness of switching gradually fades away, especially among those who like to pick up speed quickly. Therefore, it is worth treating the automatic transmission with care, almost like a robot or a variator. It will be very good if you make it a rule to change the oil in the box every 50 to 60 TKM. The robotic transmission also expanded the range of units and, as expected, it only mates with a turbo engine. Before the Rapid received the DSG robot, the box itself and its control unit were repeatedly upgraded. The clutch assembly alone has been improved 7 times already. And I can say with confidence that the work of the Germans was not in vain. Many known weaknesses of the DSG have now been eliminated. The clutches of the robot should now be enough for about 100,000, even with the condition that you will treat the manual transmission as if you were a regular machine, that is, do not regret it. Problems remained with the mechatronics, and to this day he can bring surprises without any warning from his side. Once they arrived, what keeps the DSG status dangerous when buying a used car? Dealers are still changing mechatronics under warranty, like a rejected assembly. In case of premature wear of the bearings of the 6th and reverse gear forks, they do not scatter the box on the bolts and springs, just order the DSG assembly. Well, another bad news for Škoda owners with a robot was the March recall of 43,000 cars from Russia sold from 12 to 16 years due to the need to update the firmware. The owners of Skoda Rapid have no complaints about the manual transmission and are not expected to. All that bothered the owners even a little bit was the rumble at the checkpoint in the winter season, while the oil in the box was warming up. As you know, Rapid got this weak point from Fabia. The bearing of the first shaft designates itself with extraneous noise, which has been complained about for more than a year. For those who don't like it very much, the dealer changes the part under warranty without unnecessary ups and downs. At a third-party service station, such a procedure will cost about 30 TR. In general, a simple front McPherson, like other cars of this class, pleases with reliability and low cost of parts. The only thing that strains the nerves of the owners is the oil sweating of still fresh shock absorbers, which dealer servicemen call a design feature. Indeed, this does not affect driving performance, safety, and even reliability, but the feature itself, you see, is strange. In such a weeping state, shock absorbers are capable of driving 100 TKM without breakdowns and buildups. Stabilizer struts, ball and rear silent blocks of the front levers are handed over a little earlier. What is remarkable and at the same time unpleasant, the rubber bands of the rear beam are also often sent to the trash to 100 TKM, and not so much because of wear, but because of complaints about the roll of the car in corners. Suspension Rapid already with an emphasis on comfort. Soft-bodied brake discs also did not differ in wear resistance. By about 50,000, they will most likely have to be replaced with new ones, and it is better if you choose a better analog. After the first 30 TKM, you can check the Rapid for chips. According to the tradition of VAG, their brainchildren do not differ in the durability of the paintwork to this day. What pleases is the absence of corrosion even on bare metal, and this is already a huge plus. At the first gurgling after the rain in the rear of the cabin, do not rush to inspect the spare tire niche. This is not a VW Polo for you. Water here accumulates in another place in the rear doors. Moreover, it can accumulate so much that tears of rain will begin to pour onto the rug. The culprits are drainage holes, which should sometimes be cleaned of dirt. For those who drive a lot on the highway, it will not be superfluous to modify the radiator grill with a fine mesh, otherwise insects and stones bombard the cells of the air conditioner condenser almost without hindrance, from which it significantly loses efficiency. Almost everyone likes the Skoda Rapid Salon. Here everything is VAG style, strictly, verified and concise, but here, as usual, it was not without flaws. The most frequent claim of Rapid drivers was the failure of the electronic accelerator pedal. The owner will know instantly that this happened. The motor does not respond to pressing, and at the same time the check engine error lights up. It is treated simply and often under warranty. The main thing is that the disease does not have enough Rapid during the responsible overtaking of a long length on the track. Fortunately, no such cases have been recorded. Due to the mediocre sound insulation and the deafening hum of regular Camaro tires, many owners decide on additional sizing. The total anti-creak of the center console is no less in demand. I will definitely say that it is not necessary to bypass the used Skoda Rapid. However, so that some situations are not unforeseen, it is still worthwhile to deal with the peculiarities of servicing the units. For example, you can safely buy a used Rapid with 1.4 and DSG in good condition only if you are sure that the low mileage is original, or put much larger amounts into the maintenance cost item then, for example, when choosing the option with 1.6 and manual transmission. It is quite dangerous to take a car with a low-volume, low-resource 1.2. The best choice for a used car would be a 1.6 engine, docked even with mechanics, even with a machine gun. Such a car will not be cheap. Yes, he will not get tired of constantly upsetting the consumption of gasoline, and in the case of CWVA also oil, but he will do this longer than other units. In practice, the selection of used cars clearly shows that the first 100 Rapid is still quite fresh. As they say, it blooms and smells. However, the costs of running gear with such mileage are provided. There are also a lot of copies on the market with a knocking CFNA motor. The Salon also usually looks relatively fresh. True, in almost all options tested before purchase, the front seats were covered with stains, with which it is already difficult to do something. Marquee interior is better to cover with covers immediately. In principle, there are few broken copies among the cars of the family direction, and Skoda Rapid with its not the most dynamic engines very rarely gets into an accident. Basically, these are life damage in the form of scratches. If anything, the data on the number of deployments of airbags are registered in the SRS computer and stored after resetting the crash date. Finding out the exact real mileage of a turbocharged Rapid will not be a problem. The mileage here is duplicated in the engine control unit and is written in meters. Cars with atmospheric 1.6 do not have direct mileage records, and the seller will have to be brought to clean water in indirect ways.